roster was stuck in Saudi Arabia for almost a full extra day at the airport. Now, we don't know the ins and outs about it, but according to filings from the WWE's own corporate website, the Saudi Arabia shows have not been being paid for, allegedly. So, Vince apparently, according to several sources, one being Meltzer's sources, said that Vince had a heated discussion with certain people in the Saudi Arabia government about being paid. The show did not air on time in Saudi Arabia, according to multiple Twitter users who were tweeting at Meltzer about the show while it was going on. So there's a lot of kind of hand wrangling about whether or not WWE was even getting paid for these shows, at least paid on time. Now, allegedly, WWE did get paid several hours before the start of this show on Halloween. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what's being said. Then the other prevailing wisdom is that the WWE's crew and talent were kind of held back on purpose by the Saudi government as kind of a show of force for Vince. A lot of people are like, that doesn't seem logical. The most obvious, Occam's razor, the most obvious explanations, the most honest one. And yeah, if this was Montreal or England or South America or South Africa or Australia or Japan, yeah, I'd totally 100% believe that this was just a technical malfunction. But this is a government that has killed journalists in the past for speaking out and killed them in a different country. This is a country that has been known to execute gay people. This is a country that made women dress in full, long-sleeved garb just to compete. I use the term compete loosely because there's a bad match I hear. So this is a situation where the most logical kind of statement isn't that, they had malfunctions. It was, this was a pissing contest. I 100% believe that. And it goes even more so because in certain countries, you'll see a lot more military presence and police presence in certain areas than you would in America. But there were reports on armed military members around the plane while it was quote-unquote being worked on. I don't know about you, Marcus, but if I'm a prevailing ruler, I'm not sending military members to an airport to surround a plane unless I have some reason to keep them where they are. That makes sense to me. And this isn't like one of those, well, who's saying? The talent is saying this. Like, we've been telling you fuckers for a year plus now. The issues that come hand in hand with going to Saudi Arabia. You're hearing about the issues that now happen, and you want to pretend that it's all just being blown out of proportion? How fucking desperate are you to be a brand loyalist that you have to look beyond the scope of reality to start dancing in these fucking murky-ass shallow waters? Carl Anderson's wife, Marcus, who I finally saw for the first time. He does, in fact, have a hot Asian wife. Kudos to Anderson. She even tweeted out saying, basically, you're not going back. Your family's not going to ever sit again and wonder about, if you're being kidnapped again or something that held against your will, something to that effect. Talking about how Carl Anderson believed that they were being held against their will. And that was something that she was reiterating on Twitter. Like, never do you hear that unless there's reasons to hear that. When I heard that there was military members surrounding the plane, and I think even some were on board, with guns while they were waiting to take off, that tells you everything you need to know about what was going on there. You don't have these types of situations in most other countries. So yeah, I completely believe that the WWE talent were held against their will there. Marcus, there's going to be a lot of questions about this. And I don't know if we're ever going to fully know the story or be able to fully prove the story. But do you think it's more likely that the Crown Prince was pissed at Vince McMahon for basically playing hardball with him, or do you think this was just more of just a random act, something that just happened and kind of falls in line with a certain narrative and people are blowing out of proportion? Which one do you think it is?
Well, between the overall shadiness of the whole Saudi government and all that, just one big ass kerfuffle is what that is. And Vince's historical propensity to get off in the pissing contest in several different instances just for the f of it. I don't put it past either one of them to do something, or pull your dick out move like that. And everybody else who was affected by it be damned. But when it comes to what to believe or not, look, at the end of the day, the people who's probably going through the most hell with this whole thing between the travel, just being there, not to mention specifically with the travel, the turnaround rate which they had to do these shows and get back to the states with. I'm gonna believe whatever the talent believed because they were there.
Mm-hmm.
Like Meltzer, all this the statements they put. Like, I'm gonna go with the talent because they have a better grasp on it than we do. And when you're in a situation like that, despite what's being told to you or what's fed or whatever, you know what's going on. That people aren't stupid. Whether in a different country or not, some things are just what they appear to be. And when you're in those situations specifically, and over in Saudi Arabia where it's a lot of shady things that go on, and some of it's just blatant. Um, yeah, I'm just more prone to believe the talent because, to be quite honest, half of the talent, I would imagine most of them feel obligated or feel like it's a sense of pride to go over there and perform, and the others are just doing it because yeah, this is a fat ass paycheck for me. So, but still, even with all that, I'm still just more prone to believe the talent.
I'm prone to believe the talent too. I don't want to sit here and make it sound like the talent will know every little detail that's going around them because they don't. The talent will only know what they're able to see. I don't think
Yeah,
Apollo Crews is sitting in meetings with Saudi government officials, hearing the Saudi government officials saying, "We're going to hold you guys captive for a few days, see what happens." Oh, okay, that sounds good.
yeah,
No, that's not happening. But I believe them when they say we had armed guards circling the plane while we were being disembarked, while they were repairing the plane, and while we were waiting. I believe them when they say
yeah.
that. Why wouldn't I? Why would they lie about that? Especially when it's so verifiable. And then for the WWE to come out and say we had a few talent that flew back because they were dedicated enough to rent their own charter jet, that buried so many of these guys, and so many of them took to Twitter to voice their just displeasure. But here's the thing that I need to start saying before I start really caring. If these motherfuckers re-sign, I will fucking be done with their sorry asses. And I mean this sincerely. If someone like Luke Harper or Apollo Crews or whoever re-sign, goes back over, and the worst thing happens to them, Marcus, I'm not going to feel bad anymore. You know that this shit is happening. You know, you see it. You know what is happening to your coworkers, friends, and family. And you're going to resign? Then fuck it. Whatever happens
Uh,
to you deserves to happen to you then.
This this is a great point. And I'm glad that you said like that's because that's the part I was pointing out when it came to the talent. Believing the talent was about the armed guards because again, like you said, they're not in the meetings with these people. But at the same time, it's like, these are like they have eyewitness accounts, not Meltzer, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's like you said. I mean, and didn't we talk about this before? Don't some of them have the option, or don't all of them have the option to be like, no, I'm not doing it?
Correct. All talent are able to say no without any reprisal. Then again, I don't think without reprisal is fair because I think they let people like The Miz and Daniel Bryan lose on Friday because they didn't go. They were almost essentially punished for having morals. Like Kevin Owens didn't go either. Owens and Bryan didn't go to everyone's understanding because they're morally opposed to it, which I find it hilarious in Owens' case. But with The Miz, no one's really sure why he didn't go because he's gone in the past. But he also now has a new little baby too, if I remember correctly. So maybe it's just not
Yes.
very apropos for him to be gone for 5 days.
Yeah, I mean, look, they already spent enough time away from their families, and is chaotic enough with all the travel they do in the states. You want to add to that with the uncertainty of being protected by a government who is very laissez-faire about how they operate, specifically pertaining to well, just stuff on the whim, really. Um, so I mean, yeah, you got to say, is it worth it? Some people just might be money hungry, and they might look at it as like, the reason why I guess it's quote unquote colored as a show as big as Mania is because the payday for a lot of these guys is Mania-esque,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. And for a lot of guys, they might not touch that money type of money otherwise because ain't no way in hell they even getting on a Mania card.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, this is the closest they can get. But that goes into your point. It's like, look, you can bitch and moan about all this stuff and come correct. By the way, I find it hilarious that the company, like you said, shitted on the people. Like the people who got their own charter planes and everything was truly dedicated. Yeah, they were dedicated to getting the F out of there.
Those people also didn't pay for their own charter planes either. Let's be clear. Was not putting down a bill. Lesnar didn't pay for that plane. Those were all done in their contracts to begin with. Lesnar's not paying for extra shit. He expects the company to pay for extra shit. And I don't blame him for making him do that. You think Jorge Masvidal, flew back to Miami on a private jet on his own dime? No, Dana White paid for it because Jorge Masvidal is not going to be doing that himself.
Yeah, setting those two aside. Let's not even get into a conversation about what Flair may or may not be spending. We know he ain't spending at this point.
He doesn't have
At
anything
this
left to
point,
spend.
exactly. All this. I mean, he at this point he's just probably glad to be back in the damn company's good graces. But yeah, I mean, you gotta know what you sign up for. It's a lot of crap that come with those trips. Like I said, let's look at the turnaround. They was in uh what it was it Cleveland, then they had to fly the Saudi, and then they had to come back to New York.
Something like that.
That's insane, and that's already enough, and that's like time zone thing. You got jet lag, then you got the time zone of it all. It's insane. So like you said, if you gonna bitch your mom, but you gonna resign, which there's probably guys that we don't even see on TV no more getting big stupid checks just for sitting there. But again, that's AEW effect and WWE's. Um, there's no way in hell we're gonna let you go and Drew Galloway yourself somewhere else. So